Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Um, the topic for today is something I think we all know about. We all always have thought about it at some or the other point in our life, but I believe never have been able to, talk about it at an open forum or talk about it openly with our peers, our group, or anybody for that matter. But today, here we give you the platform to uh, openly share your thoughts and your mind. And I'll start with giving a little brief about the topic, and then I'll introduce the panel, and then we'll take it forward with everybody to share their thoughts. Okay, here we go. So today's topic for discussion is speaking truth to power. It is often not popular or comfortable. It means taking a risk. It means standing for something. It means believing deeply in what you say, why it needs to be said, and doing what is required every day to have that heard. It's important to do with empathy and intentional purpose to drive the conversation to win win, maintaining empathy, curiosity to build an empowering and strong relationship. Speaking truth to power differs considerably in context and approach. By sharing inspirational stories on how they do this and the difference it makes, this panel of four fantastic women will offer experience and learning to showcase how and why they speak truth to power. We have a panel of four fantastic ladies today: Daniela, Jilinda, Debo, and Preeti. Daniela is a multilingual professional based in France, but working with a global roster of executive clients. Daniela's specialism is in diversity and inclusion advisory at executive level. She is also an experienced lecturer in business schools and an international corporate speaker on equality and inclusive leadership. Welcome, Daniela. Next, we have
Thank you.
Next, we have Jilinda. She is a proud Australian and an influential leadership expert. Jilinda walks the talk as an emotional intelligence coach, champion of change, and gender equality advocate. An international speaker, Jilinda is the author of the book Rock Your Stripes, a frank and fierce instructional guide for women on how to step up, stand out, speak out, and courageously lead change. Welcome, Jilinda.
G'day from Australia.
Next, we have Preeti. She is a renowned professional geek and is a senior woman in tech and engineering leader with the global firm Ingrained. Preeti is also an active community leader on gender equality, an advocate, and international speaker within the tech community. Welcome, Preeti.
Namaste from India.
Next, last but never the least, we have Debo. She is the creator of impactful Allyship and Influence Corporates program. A financial technology entrepreneur, Debo is also an executive sponsor, mentor, and a non-executive director on board that match her passion for quality education, health, and housing. Welcome, Debo.
How do you do? Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a question for all of you. What makes all of you so passionate about this topic today? And we'll start with you, Preeti.
Speaking truth to power means for me is having courage, moral courage, which standing up for you, standing up for others. It also means the power within you. It's also balancing fears and the courage while you speak up every day for discrimination that you face, others face in everyday's life. But it is also practicing that muscle with compassionate to ensure the situation is win-win. I'm a woman in tech, and the truth is, as you grow in your career, you are minority in the room. Most of the time, I'm the single woman in the room and do not expect power in the room. When you're part of the power group, you automatically become the minority. It is for me every day that I actually have to raise my voice to be heard. It means talking every day and open discussion about the microaggression, empowering and creating awareness both in men and women for gender equality, speaking about unconscious bias. That is why I'm very much passionate about this topic. Speaking about these biases and in day-to-day life actually opens up unspoken truth and unspoken opportunities. For me, it means women belong to all the places where discussions are made, like what late Ruth said us.
Thank you. That was insightful. Daniela, over to you. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Preeti said it all, but we'll complete with, I am actually passionate about it because I speak the truth all the time. I care about making leaders understand how important it is to hear the truth and also to real listen and make it happen, the change, right? Challenge the system. And more, what really makes me actually more passionate and motivated to keep speaking the truth is when I don't see people speaking the truth, the negative impacts behind. We don't see change happening. Silence in the room will always be bad to minorities. So to fight discrimination, stand for injustice, against injustice, and really, as Preeti said, make people feel heard and really create a relationship of trust whenever you are, and take a stand. And it's just being true to yourself, then you can actually speak the truth. It was amazing, Preeti, actually. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, well, thank you. Jalinda, over to you.
Just having some trouble here, just a moment. Okay, sorry, a little bit of trouble with sound. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, okay. Well, several decades back, I was one of those really annoying kids that asked a lot of questions. I questioned absolutely everything because I grew up in a really strict ruled environment where it was sort of a lot of man-made and religious-based rules. It just made no sense to me. So very early in the piece, very early in my life, I realised the power of individuality and independence at a young age, where I grew to understand the power of having your own brain, your own thoughts, your own decisions, and busting out of that belittling, small box to be seen, to be heard, and to make a bigger difference. So now in my adult life, I have a real interest for leadership, and that's on two levels: personal leadership, which is about being CEO of your own life, and professional leadership, which is about being a really influential decision maker. And during my career, and I've had a number of different careers, the 10 years that I spent in government, in leadership roles in government, absolutely fueled my passion for encouraging and enabling more women to step up into leadership roles, and the fact that we need that. So speaking truth to power for me is about daring to stand in that arena. Sometimes you have to do it on your own, to speak the truth and speak up so that people hear the whole story, everyone's perspectives can be heard, so that better decisions are made and we have better outcomes for all. My sweet spot is when I can combine leadership with diversity and end up with game-changing women, or dynamic game changers out there, because we need those courageous leaders, particularly right now, and we'll talk about a bit more about that later. So it's absolutely my why, my purpose, and developing those types of leaders is what I do and what I love doing.
That's great. We need more and more women of you in the society, I think. That's great. Going to Debo.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having this panel here this morning. I am a really good friend of the three other ladies that are on this panel. And we had a long conversation about what we should include and what we shouldn't include. And I think probably the easiest question that the easiest answer that came to my mind when when you're asking this question, why are we all so passionate about this topic? I'd probably say, well, why wouldn't anybody who is a true leader not be passionate about this topic. Because here's what we know. COVID has not been great for women in general, and it's been a real challenge for leaders. There are probably other people on the panel who will speak to this later, but whether you are an executive running an organization or a non-executive director like me, who is there to influence and challenge and assess the robustness of information, the decisions that people have had to make over this time, first of all with COVID coming in, and then the global response to the Black Lives Matter incidents that happened on the 25th of May, has meant that people in leadership, people on boards, are having to start difficult conversations. And for anyone who doesn't have the experience and the ability to effectively stand up and speak truth to power, and it is uncomfortable, and it is sometimes some difficult conversations. And I have a really close friend who often says that this is the year that many people have had to embrace and, you know, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. If we don't have a society, if we do not have board members, if we do not have boards, if we do not have leaders who become comfortable with the uncomfortable, then we aren't going to see the transformation that needs to happen in your sector, in your business, or in your life. So Jalinda's spoken about being the CEO of yourself. Pretty's spoken about an industry. Daniela has spoken about the wider issues and has also sort of echoed Pretty's information about empathy. For me, speaking truth to power is equivalent to confidence. At board levels, many times executives feel that they only have to bring good news. But a board that's mature and has a mature outlook will welcome the opportunities to speak about and hear from, whether it's executives or their customers or their consumers or peers, some of the difficult conversations. So for me, I'm passionate about it because when you are able to have an environment where speaking truth to power is welcomed, you have an environment, and definitely at board level, where you are taking action to ensure goals are achieved. You're modeling success, you're pursuing the dreams, the corporate dreams of the organization, and you can action proper financial plans for the financial wellness, not just of the dominant voice, but for everybody, including the most disadvantaged groups. Because here's what we know. Women have gone into COVID and have had a double work life where they have managed their full-time careers, and sometimes it's a triple work life if they're managing their home, they're managing their family, and also trying to juggle their career. And the research that has come out of the Women in the Workplace study this year spoke about men saying that during COVID they've done about 50 hours. They do 50 hours of home housework a piece, where women are saying that they're doing about 70 hours. And the truth to power that needs to have been spoken during this time is that the balance, if we're truly expecting for people to be managing their roles whilst they're in furlough or whilst they're having to renegotiate, the idea about speaking truth to power, even within that home, where you've got that board of two parents or two family members who are leading that home, I am so passionate about speaking truth to power because it really opens up new opportunities where you are able to talk about things and the changes and the flexibility that's needed, and you're able to do it openly and with a sense of providing mutual benefit to everyone.
Thank you, Debo. That does draw a context of this topic to the current times that we're dealing in. Not to forget, it is our new normal. So yes, thank you for that. My next question to all of you is, how do you see the need to speak the truth to power playing out in various experiences that you have had, you've seen, or been witness to? I'll start this with you, Jalinda.
Okay. Look, I think Debo's given us a really good segue into that. We live in this world where truth, that real story or the full story, is often really hard to find. It's often sugar-coated and sometimes a completely different flavour to what you're expecting. And sadly, many of the world leaders that we have are currently, hard to believe, do not speak truth to power. In Australia, we call it spin. They speak spin. They kind of manipulate the truth to either gain or remain in power. So when we say speaking truth to power, we're not talking about, you know, sugarcoating and you know, making the truth fit the power. We're actually talking about having the courage to speak the absolute truth, that open and transparent sort of leadership. And you know, coming down a peg or two, say organisational leaders or company leaders are also quite often hard to follow or trust, because they often fail to be really genuine, open and transparent too. And as a leadership coach, and I do a lot of stuff with programs with leaders in large corporations, etc. That's the stuff that I'm seeing, is that it's almost like relearning how to be a leader once you're in power, because that speaking truth, that courage to actually really tell it like it is often, you know, not expected. It's expected that as a leader, you try to make it as painless as possible, and therefore you're often not telling the whole truth. So the work that I do, or what I'm really keen on starting with, if you like, is speaking truth is about your truth first. It's about being clear and consistent about who you are, what you stand for, and absolutely knowing your core values. And I don't mean 10 core values. I mean your 2 or 3 really deep core values that you hold, that are what I call your must-haves and your drivers, and making decisions that are consistent with those. Because people actually want to follow real leaders, you know, genuine leaders, authentic leaders. So if you think about, and some of your listeners would know leadership guru Simon Sinek, and he has the golden circle model that's quite popular, quite known. And he talks about the fact that we should start with why, and leaders need to go to their people with why are we doing this, so that they understand why, and then what and how. And that's one way of starting to get to that depth of truth. But I believe there's a deeper core in the middle of that circle, and that is about people wanting to know who you are, the real you, and that you need to be authentic to the core. Not just talk, not just vague promises and no action afterwards, that real core driven leadership. And I think that's what's needed. So in the leadership space, I work in building emotional intelligence, because that's where that core comes from. It starts with self-awareness and cementing core values to everything that the person says, everything they do, and all their actions needs to come back to that core. So it's building the courage to speak out, to speak truth to power from the inside. So I always say leadership starts as an inside out process. And right now, in emotional intelligence, personal agility is one of the most needed emotional intelligence skills to deal with the changes that are thrust upon our leaders today. And it starts with being willing, ready, able to quickly respond, to make changes, to leap on new opportunities. And I read in a Forbes article recently that, you know, they're talking about it as being adaptability as the new must-have leadership skill. Same sort of thing. Adaptable leaders are people who are including others with them on the journey, so that everybody's adapting to what you called the new normal, or whatever that looks like. I tend not to use the word normal, because it's the new whatever it is today, and tomorrow it could be different. And it's about being that agile. And that's a really new skill for a lot of leaders. And to be able to speak truth to that is an interesting thing. In my advocacy stuff that I do with women particularly, speaking up about more diversity, more women at decision-making tables right now, it's really frustrating for Australian women. So I want to put a bit of context in that. Right now, our gender equality reporting has really gone, well, we'd call it down the toilet. We've gone backwards the last 10 years or so to being, you know, we've slipped 44th in the world for women's participation in management levels. Our women over 55 are the fastest growing poverty in our area, poverty homeless sector in Australia. And that has actually increased by 63% in the last 5 years. So, you know, we really need a lot of work done in that space. Right at that time, and Debo talked about COVID, what's happened with that plus COVID, we've just had our Prime Minister, this is hot news, last week actually released the budget, the recovery budget, what do they call it? The Economic Recovery Task Force budget. $507 billion is being spent on the recovery, and they allocated just 0.036% to women's initiatives. Now, one of our well-respected Women's Agenda news editors wrote and published a bit of a scathing piece straight after the budget came out. And the very next day, this is what happens when you speak truth to power. So it's an example of that. Very next day, the PM's office actually contacted her and told her that no credible women think that the budget is inadequate for women at 0.036% of women's initiatives of it. So there's that kind of discredit that happens quite often when you want to speak truth to power. And the Twitter sphere went viral. From that, just very quickly, we've got a hashtag credible women movement that's starting in Australia. All of this has happened in the last less than a week. And, you know, it's just fair to say that Australia is witnessing hordes of women right now that are collectively rising up to speak truth to power. And, you know, I'm involved in that too, because really we need to do it collectively. And when we do it collectively, you don't feel like you're standing in the arena alone. And it is important to call out things like saying that women's comments on this are not credible.
Thank you, Jalinda. That really means a lot, and it does draw a lot of focus and concern. Thank you. Over to you, Daniel. What do you think?
Well, thank you, Jalinda, for sharing. And I think I can complement what she just said about creating relationships of trust, right? In fact, my work is all around that when we talk about helping leaders develop their empathy, their humility and vulnerability to accept the truth, and also open up the discussion and a space, safe space where people can actually feel comfortable to share their thoughts, even if it differs from each other, right? How we can actually speak the truth, listen to the truth, but also discuss it. They will talk about being comfortable in uncomfortable conversations. That's all about what it is. One example, when I help leaders, they are executive seniors. And one of my goals is to help them actually develop these skills, okay? How I develop my empathy and I be more humble and vulnerable, open to vulnerability, to really embrace this situation, these conversations. Most of my clients, they're unconscious about this need, actually. So it's a kind of a surprise in the goal, because they come to me for a career transition or some challenge related to the workplace, but not related to themselves. And I challenge them to actually go further. It will vary, like there is, it will differ from profiles and situations. But for example, if we talk about gender, women tend to want to speak the truth, but they actually are afraid of, because of bias behind and all the stereotypes and social norms that will create these barriers. So what happens is we'll work on this self-confidence as well, but also stand for their beliefs and actually learning how to speak the truth, but also find allies. Because a woman or any minority need allies actually when they speak the truth in order to be heard, right? So how I create this allyship around me as well. It's something that I like to work with. And if we talk about men, which is the dominant group, white men, they will actually be, at the end of the program, more conscious about their bias as well, and open up to listen to others' truth and be humble actually to create this culture of feedback and listen actively and intentionally. As you all know, we are all here connected by Lean In, the movement. And I am also the regional leader from Lean In Bordeaux. And recently we joined a competition locally here in France, which was aimed to raise the consciousness, the awareness about needing more women in the workplace, right? In leadership roles. And it was most companies that are considered more masculine, automotive or aerospace, etc. And how can we actually, during this kind of event, challenge these companies, challenge the organizers as well, to improve the way they do this, to not become only a marketing thing? Okay, we had the opportunity to ask more questions. So you have the company in front of you, we do games, yes, it's cool, but okay, you tell me you have more interest of values to this event. That's why you're joining it, but how you can make it better? So tell me your plans for next year. We are leaders, are local members as well. How we can actually formulate questions that will make them actually think and say, yeah, that's true. We didn't plan anything for implementing these promotions. We are just sharing values, but not really being concrete with the actions. So this kind of situations can make your voice heard if we actually challenge the system. Another example is I'm constantly challenging the system around me, not only with my clients, with my partners, but also with society. Okay, recently as well in France, I talk about France because where I'm located in, but we recently as well had a documentary about decolonization, where it explains racism behind the history and why you have discrimination in the society now. And even in social media, I see comments like, wow, it doesn't concern us, it's the past, let's move on. No, me as a citizen and also as a professional in diversity and inclusion, I can't let it only happen, see a comment and just disagree and keep it to myself. I will educate them, okay? I will let them a message as well. No, it's not about being guilty. Think about re-educating yourself, learning the base of history, and break the bias, re-educate the way you do it, how you can actually be an ally to people who are suffering this discrimination. Let's not be blinded to it. And that's why I think we really need to change the mindset and be more strong with our words and the intention. Be like having intention, a real intention when we say our truth.
Thank you, Daniela. That is extremely insightful. And I'm sure everybody is now pondering upon all of this that they would have also witnessed at some point. But this draws the focus and the attention now. Preeti, over to you.
Yeah, I like what Daniela said. I think the industry is masculine dominated, and tech industry very specifically is masculine dominated. Like the three major issues which women see in daily life, right? And these issues are actually pulling down women, pulling down them in the broken rung, intersectional biases, and everyday discrimination. And this is the simple truth of the industry. More than ever, women are choosing the fast-growing technology by breaking the glass ceiling today in the industry. And that's the pathway they have been using for the career. However, women remain significantly underrepresented in the tech male-dominated industry and face a number of challenges when entering the tech and also staying in the tech sector. However, women tend to do not have the same core access or creative technical role as men, and more often are not in the executive role and management roles. Tech architect roles are only very much for the men. If you actually see the recent women at workplace report in US and the UK PwC report, we have 25% in the senior and the management role of women. And I'm sure this percentage will remain same in India and it will not change drastically. Despite the gains in leadership, A broken rung in promotion at the first level of the manager's trip is a major barrier. For more than 100 women promoted, there's only 85 women promoted. And there's a huge gap. Experiencing day-to-day inequalities, discrimination, biases at work. These experiences have often taken the form of microaggressions, as someone questioning women's judgment, interrupting her in the meeting, mistakenly assuming she's a junior employee. Although microaggression may seem to be small, but when you deal by one, they become the reason for why they add up more. We always talk about the leaky pipeline, why women leave. Most of the time, it's said as women leave because of the family. No, the women leave because of the broken rung. The women are not moved into the upper role. They get frustrated and leave the organization. And once they leave, where do they go? They most of the time go to a non-profit organization, and it takes a lot of effort for them to come back to the tech industry. Like Devu was saying, become comfortable with uncomfortable. Leaders need to get comfortable when women speak up. Women do negotiate as much as men. It is not true telling that women do not negotiate. Women do negotiate. But the problem when women negotiate, they are pushed back. Whereas when men negotiate, they are encouraged. Women are breaking the glass ceiling, but organizations are giving them the sticky floor. Sticky floor is a metaphor where women are not actually moved up the ladder. Evidence suggests that the women are facing access a lot of challenges with accessing to the core. Senior women majorly face the challenges. As they move into the higher position, they have elderly care at home, managing children at home. They are expected to do more than 200% of men. If you ask the men managing home and versus a women managing home, though there are men and women managing home, it is only 13% of the men who actually say that they manage home, right? The senior women are actually burning out at higher rate, where having 36% of work pressure, 54% of exhaustion, and 36% of burnout. This is the recent workplace report. Most of the women, and while I was talking about pushback, right? Leaders, when they talk about, whenever we talk about women at workplace, we talk about changing the women, right? Oh, we need to give her mentorship. Oh, we need to do this for her. I think that is not required. We need sponsorship. We need to change. It is not the women we need to change. We need to change the system. While companies understand that they're acknowledging it and they're hiring it, but what are they doing for creating a belonging workspace? What are they doing for developing the talent of women, right? And when it comes to development of talent, women are always the last person to be chosen. 2015 report says 25% in senior women leadership. 2020 report says 25% in senior women leadership. What does that tell us? It simply tells us that there has been no change from the organizations. As I said, it's organizations are having sticky floors. It is the phenomenon where women are getting stuck at the lowest level of the corporate hierarchy, right? I can give you a great example of microaggressions that I face, right? Hey, Preeti, you don't have to work. Your husband works for you and your money is your pocket money. You will not do your job, right? And you are not seen as a senior woman, right? I'm the woman who contributes to the family, contribute to my organization, contribute to my society and the economy. So these are the challenges that we face, and these are the challenges that we have. And this is a bare minimum truth of where we are stuck, and we need to speak about it more and help women and create a foster an environment to have their growth and focus and invest in them.
Thank you, Preeti. That bringing in personal experiences obviously draws more and more attention and context to such topics which are hardly spoken about. Thank you so much. Thank you. Debo, over to you. How have your experiences been in this context?
So actually, before I respond, I just wanted to thank a few of the people who have been putting their own comments alongside us. So Vinitha has said 3 things, 2 of which I would absolutely disagree with, and we would have a robust conversation about it. And one of them that I think is a really insightful point. So firstly, as Priti was speaking, and also Jalinda and Daniela, Vinitha's comments were that women don't take risks. That's why they're not moving into senior leadership positions. And the other summary was that women have been hired in large numbers in the tech industry. But after 3 years, there is attrition because life happens. So here's what we know. And this is research that's been done on women in the workplace from at least 2018, but this study is the largest study of its type worldwide, and so far there have been 6 consecutive years of study. But the study particularly focused on 2018 as to why women seem to be leaving the workplace. And it's not because they are not asking for the promotions. It's not because they're not asking for the money. It's not because they're not keen to step up and take on more challenges. What is happening is that they are asking for those things, but the systems in which they work, and I know Vinitha had said, don't blame the systems, women have to do their own work. But here's the deal. Vinitha and everybody else, if you are working in an organization or in a system that by its very nature makes it difficult, if you are working in an organization where you join, you may be the senior manager there, but if you have other managers come in and they look over to the people that you are looking after and they say, oh, who's the new girl? Who's the new girl? They may feel there's nothing against it, but that sort of microaggression that continually undermines your ability, as Priti said, it is like tiny paper cuts. You can die from 1,000 paper cuts. You can die from 1 stabbing, but you can also die from 1,000 paper cuts, 1,000,000 paper cuts. And if, like we currently have seen, we have a situation where you have a pandemic where people are being asked to stay at home. And if you are working in a system of home life where you are still expected to take 100% of all of the home activities, and you are on a Zoom call at 9 and 11 and 1, and your partner is not prepared to look after the children or to take care of lunch or to support you in your career, that's one separate area where you will feel sort of undermined. If you then go into work and you have people saying, oh, who's the new girl? Or they come up to you and they say, I'd like to speak to I'm here to speak to the manager, and they look past you to see who else is in the room. And when you say, yes, how can I help you? They say, yeah, please go and get the manager, and say, yes, how can I help you? No, I need the manager. Yes, how can I help you? It's a real struggle to look up, to look across, and not see anyone who looks like you, who has a similar background to you, who is willing to sponsor you and act as that ally and that advocate to say, oi, she is the manager. Or why do you think that she couldn't be the manager? Somebody other than you, someone who has no axe to grind, who has nothing to gain, then you won't feel a sense of belonging and you will leave the organization. And what this research has been showing year after year after year is that broken rung of having a system that enables you to be put forward for the complex, for the more complex projects. Having a system that as soon as you say as a woman, I'm having a baby, the system doesn't think, oh my goodness, pregnancy bias, her brain is going to turn into cottage cheese, or paneer if you're in India. If you have a system that just says, okay, we're going to force your career for you to lean back or lean out, rather than help you continue and not make decisions for you until the decisions are needed. And that's one of the things that the writer of the book, Leading, Sheryl Sandberg, often says. The young women come to her and they say, oh, I've just started out in this career. I'm not yet married, but I know I want to have children. And then when I have children, I may want to spend some time with them. And if I spend some time with them, then I may... Why make those decisions before those decisions are there? And the advice is always, part of that time is, and I believe the advice is, part of that time is for you to exercise your ability to speak that truth to power. So when you are coming in as a young woman and you are not in a relationship and your manager's saying, oh, well, you're going to get married soon, you're going to be out of the workplace, that's the time. Maybe the time is not right for you to say, what do you mean? Because one, if you're a black woman, they're going to say, okay, angry black woman. If you're in the West and you are Asian, so Indian or Chinese, Asian, their view is, oh, she's not being very subservient, because we know that those sorts of people are being subservient. If you're a Latina or a redhead, oh, let's stop, she's very fiery. And if you're a white woman, oh, let's stop the conversation because she's emotional. And at those points in times, the speaking truth to power may be you saying it, it may be somebody else saying it. So the experiences that we have, and I haven't even had an opportunity to really talk about the experiences that I've had, but Vinitha, don't ever be fooled. Women are taking the risks. They are stepping up. They are asking. What is happening is that they're finding themselves in the double bind. If you don't step up, women are being called meek and reticent. And when they do step up, the same people are calling them pushy and arrogant. A man says it, and the view is, and by the way, this session is not about we hate men, because that's not the case at all. But when a man says it, typically our society makes it okay for men to say, oh, I did this, I did the other. And I've heard even very recently senior women going into senior positions and they're being told by other women, don't see this as an easy ride. I will be the person who determines whether or not you are successful. So when you put forward your accomplishments, those sorts of people are harder on you when you state your accomplishments. For women, it's always supposed to be you talking about, oh, the team did very well, and the team. Whereas with men, it's, oh, I did this, and I was the one who made the decision, and I alone cured cancer, and I alone did this. And it's like, yeah, the man's ambitious, he's moving forwards. But when women say, well, actually, I sat down and I put together the roadmap. Oh, but didn't you do it with the team? Well, no, actually, I did it by myself over the weekend. But surely your team helped you. And you're like, yeah, the team. And that sort of microaggression is the sort of microaggression that pervades the workplace. It pervades the communities in which you work. And if you don't learn during the peacetime to speak truth to power in those times, as actually no, this is my accomplishment, it's going to be very difficult to bring that into the workplace. And for someone like me at board level, my role is to be able to ask for the data, to ask for the information. So I mentioned before the Black Lives Matter incidents, when many corporates came out and they said, all racism is terrible and all lives are important, and we really should ensure that you should know as our customers that management is fully committed to ensuring that every single aspect of racism and discrimination is not part of who we are as a people. Full stop. And here is our 5-point plan or 10-point plan or 16-point plan. We are going to listen to our staff, and then we're going to listen some more. And then we're going to give them space to amplify their voices. And then what we're going to do is we're going to coach them. We're going to nurture them. And we're going to train them. And we're going to train all of these black staff. And they're not asking the black staff, what is it that you need? And here's the deal. If you are in an organization where you are excellent because you've joined the organization, and what you're finding is barriers in your path where you're seeing other colleagues having a free path, when the managers are seeing an affinity bias and are saying, oh, he reminds me of when I just joined, so they're taking that young man out to their clients, and you as a woman or you as an ethnic minority are not being afforded the same opportunities, you don't need any coaching. You don't need any mentoring. What you need, as has been said earlier, is sponsorship. So many of the solutions that have been put out by corporates, which is providing training and sponsorship and interns and everything else, and also always at the joining level. If you're on a board and you're hearing about those things, part of the speaking truth to power is for you saying, so what did the black staff say when you asked them? How was this co-created with the people who you're trying to help? Who are the allies that you've got in place? So I think that part of the issue here, Vanitha, is that speaking truth to power is about taking those risks. Speaking truth to power is about leaning in. But you were right about saying that women block other women. As I said before, the research that was done about 20 years ago showed that women are harder on other women who state their accomplishments. And it's interesting because black women are harder on black women, Indian women are harder on Indian women, Chinese women are harder on Chinese women, white women are harder on white women. 20 years on, the research was done because we've had Me Too movement, we've had lots of positive initiatives globally to do these, but 20 years on, it's shown that actually it's still the same, and in some areas it's actually quite worse. So being able to speak truth to power, whether you are working in an industry or whether you're working on an individual level or whether you're talking and being a credible woman to government, or whether you're being an ally and able to influence at board, all of those examples that we've spoken about are really needed, and it has to be a consistent and a concerted effort to move things on. But I'm going to stop here, Ashwarya, or else we won't get through the session.
I was going to say that this is going to be very tough for all of you to actually summarize it and put it and, limit it to our timeline. I'm sure, because, it's unfortunate that, all of us have witnessed in some or the other way, but, have never actually spoken about it. And yes, it's very unfortunate. However, moving on. Now, I'd like to ask, so we know that all of these situations exist in all societies and across the globe. What mentoring tools, approaches, or frameworks have you found that work best, or you recommend anything for women across cultures, across the globe dealing with such situations? I'll start with you, Preeti.
Thanks, Aishwarya. I would start with the point that, like what Vanitha was saying, it is a power within you. Yes, I think a lot of women in the tech industry that I am with, I have a lot of power with them, and they're negotiating every day. But I think there's also one thing that women need to develop is the personal board of authority, and need to develop their networks so that, like Jalinda said, they're not singled out, right? They have a supported and backup system which is there. And organizations, while they are very actively actively providing mentorship to all the women as well as the leaders. I think now is the time the organization need to move the needle from mentorship to the sponsorship to create opportunities and growth for women. It also provides the power base to speak the truth, right? I mean, that is what we need to do. And this will basically fuel up the courage and the grit going. Coming up to the community level, I'm also a community leader, which brings all four of us together is Lean In. So we have templates and tools that we actually help women to build and upskill themselves. Some of the tools is Facing Fear Fearlessly, where we talk about how to manage your fear and speak up the truth. We also have I Am Remarkable, which is a Google initiative, which is talking about the bragging rights. The community also helps the teenagers having teen in tools where we talk about girls needing the education system, right? Yesterday was International Women's Girls Day, and we all, the UN had declared, and I think this is very an important day because at the education level also there's a huge dropout of women, and it is very important that the government also played in. And this teen in, while we did at the teenagers level, we provided the tool where they could identify why education is important. Now, as we said, organizations start need to invest and bridge the pay gap and the gender gap by including women, upskilling women, and including women in innovation, right? Better distribution of unpaid childcare, housework. Given the COVID situation that has happened, women are totally getting burned out because they're expected to work 200%, 100% at work, 100% at home. It's totally unfair. Organization need to look
Is Pretty hung?
I think we lost Preeti.
Yeah, whilst we're trying to get her back on, are you back, Pretty?
Okay.
Are you back, Pretty? Before Pretty carries on, I just wanted to say, Pretty mentioned one of the tools, which is I Am Remarkable. And I know you said we shouldn't be pitching, but it's a Google tool. It's really good. And I think it's one of the foundation areas when we're trying to talk about speaking truth to power. You do have to be able to state your accomplishments clearly. So I've just put something in the links. I've put something in the chat, a link to where people can go and get one of and be able to experience an I Am Remarkable session for themselves. If anyone's wondering about their first step, as Priti said, speaking truth to power, it is about knowing how you are able to state your accomplishments. Sorry, Priti, I just wanted to jump in there whilst you were off, but I'll go off. I'll hand over to you again.
Yeah, I don't know how much you said. I will take it up from I Am Remarkable. Yes, I Am Remarkable is a tool that we actually help women to talk about their bragging rights and help them on talk about fearlessly, right? And while important, organization needs to invest on bridging the pay gap and the gender gap, it's also important that organization will need to help the male managers, the managers who are men, to mentor and sponsor women, and we should then providing a reward system. This is very important. The power comes through the peer, and the men around you need to support you, right? To create the places of belonging. You might have a wonderful leader who's supporting a woman, but how about the peers? Are they supporting the women? So it's just not enough as a leader supporting a woman or a manager supporting the woman. It is important how peers support the women and creating those sponsorship ability. And also that's called as allyship, right? Allyship is most important. How does the organization help the men to be an ally? That is very critical. A sense of belonging through coaching schemes or mentoring schemes, right? Building the network. All these are pretty good. And Lean has another tool called 50 Ways of Bias, and I have actually done this 50 Ways of the Bias tool, and it is very well designed for men to uncover their biases. And that's very important. And why do I say men so many times? All the men around us are really good. but there are biases based on our beliefs and value system that is there within us, which is holding the women back. And to empower, we need everybody around us to empower. So that is why this is important.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you.
Sorry, before you move on, Preeti, because I know you also said as a community leader, you mentioned briefly the International Day of the Girl, which was yesterday.
Yes.
For people who want to start on trying to train people on how to speak to truth to power earlier, I know we're not in the Q&A session, but if you just allow me, because I wanted to hear if Preeti wanted to share anything around the sorts of tools available for younger women.
Yeah, I think we have a tool called I Spoke. Probably I broke out in those times when I spoke. So one of the tools that we use for teenagers is about talking fearlessly when there is a fear that is required. And most of the girls drop out at the early age, and especially it happens in India. If you look at schools at the government sector, right? It may not happen in the other schools. So it's very important we create that awareness that education plays an important role in women's life. And we do have these tools which empower, and we had great initiatives that empowers and moves the needle further for the girls to be in the industry. Aishwarya, over to you.
Thank you. Jalinda, what are your thoughts?
Just in relation to, tools or frameworks, I might keep it a little bit succinct around that, because Preeti and Debo have covered off a lot of the stuff that in Lean In, and we're all regional leaders in Lean In our own countries. We have a number of tools that we use in that area. But in the specific areas that I focus on around leaders speaking truth to power and women aspiring into leadership roles, there's probably two things that I would just like to mention, and it does come back to building that really strong core. I saw a number of the comments that came in the chat around the fact that, yes, we still do need, it's not about fixing women, it's actually about building such a strong core around, your values and around what you need to be able to be resilient enough to take those risks and to be able to rise up after all those knocks that will be inevitable and to keep going. So I think that's more what it is. Not so much that we need fixing, it's often we need that extra kind of, what I say, cemented to your core beliefs so that you are unshakable in some of those areas. So in that, I wrote a book, and in that is a FAVE 5 formula. And if you'll allow me, FAVE 5 stands for being your full-ass version. It's full-ass version essentials, and there's 5 of them, and they all start with I. So it's actually about really leaning in, if you like, to your individuality, how individuality gives you that power. I discovered that very early in life. It's about not needing to compete, compare, copy, or conform. You are a total individual, and you are fully enough on your own. So it's individuality, independence, being an initiator of change. That means willing to step up, speak about the changes that are needed, influencing as a leader, and being involved. So when we talked earlier about involvement, what some of you have talked about is, how we get together collectively for that strength. So that particular tool is available, and I'm happy to send you a link to that. The second one on leadership, for leaders speaking truth to power, is actually an LQ formula, or a leadership intelligence formula, which is 5 C's. This is not used enough at recruitment level. We get all sorts of problems because we don't recruit the right leaders in the first place. So it starts with 5 C's. It starts with character first, which is that core I was talking about. It's people who are actually speaking truth to their own personal powers, their own core values and beliefs. So it's character plus competence plus courage plus consistency, because consistency means trust, and then a real commitment to drive, what you're driving all the way home, and not just kind of sitting in your powerful leadership chair thinking, isn't this great, and counting your money, and not actually being committed to drive change. So they're the 2 formulas I tend to use.
What do those 5 C's make up?
It's an LQ formula, Leadership Intelligence Formula, LQ stands for. They're all based on emotional intelligence, and that's why I'm kind of bringing those into it. But, you know, character is where it starts.
Thank you. Thank you. I think everybody's been able to draw context and understand and get motivated. I'm sure. I am, for sure. Devo, what are your thoughts?
So I just want to be able to say ditto, ditto for both Jalinda and Priti, but just I think probably just talking about some of the other areas then. So at the board level, at the level where you're talking at the C-suite, your CEO, your CIO, all of those people who are developing the strategy for the organization, which is where I often sit, having training around things like the impactful allyship programs, where we ask boards to understand and address the areas. We were talking about the system has blind spots. So it is down to those boards, non-executive directors, to understand what are the questions that you ask that enable and that give the executives a freedom to think, hold on, are we doing this the right way? Are there things that we could be doing in a different way to deliver the change that we really want? And most allyship well, everybody's doing 3 letters or 5 letters. So for me, it's very much around the tools that help you with your awareness, that help you do your audit, and then move you on to allyship. And there are 3 types of allyship that's covered in this program. But definitely the awareness, which includes just your ongoing understanding of how the world has changed and your place, and understanding your place in it. So having that kind of leadership, so the LQ, leadership, intelligence, and then also emotional intelligence, I think is even more key. For women specifically who are saying, if only I had the confidence to, if only I could speak to, well, there are programs, as we've said, like I'm Remarkable, that helps you, first of all, internalize your achievements and also learn how to speak about them. But so for example, with the Confidence Vault, which is the sponsor mentoring service that we deliver, the Confidence Vault program gives people the opportunity to actually tap in to the confidence that other people have as you build your own. Because, you know, practice makes, people say practice makes perfect, but actually practice embeds it. And if you use those muscles of understanding how to be confident and knowing how and when to speak to truth to power, and knowing what sort of ally you are or what sort of ally you need, the more you do that, the more comfortable you become with it. So I would say tools that provide you with initially awareness, and that then also help you to audit where you are. And then thirdly, to give you an opportunity to understand either the ally that you need to be or the allies that you need, are probably some of the most powerful tools. And I think we've all put our social media things up on Coacharya. So if people wanted to talk to any one of us further, I'm sure we'd be more than happy to do it. And I'll take any of the questions or comments that are being raised here in a later Q&A session, I think. But I'll pause for there now and probably say, give somebody else, probably, I think if Daniela hasn't spoken, probably just Aishwarya, just get her to say a little bit before we do anything else.
Thank you, Debo. I will be briefly. Well, as you all know, we are very diverse. We are from different continents and countries. So we complement each other in the way we approach the truth. We already talked about human actually getting confidence and developing the self-confidence to actually speak the truth. My work is mostly about opposite to challenging the system. So that's why I concentrate, I focus on that. I challenge more the system because I have often leaders who are men, who are white, and who are unconscious about this. So I really would like to reframe how we can give tools to leaders actually to develop this awareness of understanding their bias and the real actions. Only being aware of your bias doesn't work. You really need to take actions, efforts every day. And I give this tools to them, which is series of exercise where you can actually, during the process, start working on your actions behind to break this bias. And empathy, active listening activities, how you can actually work on this combination of affective empathy, compassionate empathy, and cognitive. The cognitive will be the one, the strong one will, which actually will help you be more analytical and pragmatic. In the same way with the affective, you are being caring as well. But then you step back and you protect yourself as well. Your emotions comes to what Jelinda does, right? If you have worked your emotional intelligence behind, you're gonna be actually more keen to work on empathy and not be afraid of being empathetic. What many leaders tell me is, wow, but I'm too sensitive. If I start really listening to people, I will, I can't hold, it's too much for me. And I say, no, if you work on your real listening, take a step back, don't give your advice right away, don't say anything, listen properly, and ask questions, be curious. Working on your curiosity behind your empathy will actually enhance the openness to speak the truth and to listen to the truth, but also create a culture of feedback. I call it like critical thinking and receiving, giving, and implementing your feedback style. And this is all about distributing decision-making in a company, in a team, how we actually get to be proactive as well in the way we work together. Collaboration. So accompanying leaders, like I imagine many of you are coaches here. So that's why I'm telling you, you can actually go beyond the tools you have, okay? Using your coaching tools, but being also mentor in the way you challenge your clients for change. That's my message.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, wrapping up the session now. I have just last question for all of you, for all our viewers and everybody who's on this session with us. What's that last one tip that you can give, or one suggestion that you can give to everybody here dealing with the same issues at in different contexts, different environments, different situations, but dealing with it? Okay, I'll start with you, Daniel. I know you just mentioned your view, but in that one sentence that you can say for, ladies all over different communities and all around the world, what's that one thing that, as per you, can?
I would say be intentional and be curious, listen actively, and a call to action, actually. It's more a call to action. What are you starting now around these three key words? Listening, curiosity, and being intentional.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Jelinda.
I think it's about courage. So for me, it's about having the courage to call out or to name the elephant in the room that we all walk around way too often. And they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So sometimes having the courage is just one chunk at a time, but at least doing something to get rid of that big elephant in the room.
That's put very correctly. Elephant in the room it is all the time. Preeti, over to you.
I'll take the clue from Jelinda and I'll say it is courage with compassion. It's a combination of what Daniela said and Jelinda said. It's important to have courage, but also courage with compassion while you speak the truth, because you need to have people around you to help you to move forward. And courage with compassion is very important while you speak the truth, because you need to understand what is there on the table at both ends.
That puts it again very well. You need the courage and you need the compassion to say it. Debo.
Follow up, follow up, follow up today. Anything that you've learned, follow up within 24 hours. Somebody, you need to speak truth to power, follow up within 24 hours. Somebody does a microaggression to you, follow up. Whether it is about gaining the courage or speaking to somebody who you respect to say, well, I've had this, how would you handle it? Follow up. If you've heard about some training that you'd like to do, or some training or some tools that you'd like to work with, follow up. Follow up today. Don't put it on your to-do list. Follow up today within 24 hours.
That's going to help, I think. Yes, that's a great motivation. Okay, everybody, we've come to that hour of the day. We take up your questions. Please feel free to send it up in the chat box. If there are any questions you'd like to ask anybody, we can take anything up now.
Well, there are already things in the chat, so maybe, ladies, if we just go through them. There's one that was aimed at me that said, Debo, most of us start our meetings with the thought, oh, I just thought of saying that, but someone else said it before I could, and it's mostly a guy. So lean in, Vinitha. Is it Vinitha? Lean in. Lean in. Oftentimes people say, any questions, and people think, oh, I'll let the other people speak first. Lean in. Put that hand up. Put it up first. Put it up first. Say the comment. Be that person who is unapologetic about being, and don't start the conversation with, oh, well, I'm sorry, and maybe it's not the right thing, and almost, no, it's just, I thought that was a really fascinating comment, and it really resonated with me. And I also thought, and then just say what you wanted to say. And then another thing that I was told by a really great executive search firm, a partner in an global executive search firm, he said, say what you have to say and then shut up.
Yeah. If I may, I'd like to add to that, because I find that happens a lot as well. And one of the things that women tend to do, I don't like to get too gendered here, but I've noticed in some of my coaching, is that they will sit back and kind of be waiting for the right moment. And that's the reason why somebody else says it first. So instead of going deflation, I didn't get to say that thing. One of the things that I've learned to do is to actually go, great idea. You know, I was thinking something along the same lines. I totally agree with what you said, and you add to it. So that way you're actually creating the ally, you're agreeing with the person, and even though that was your idea or something you were going to say, try to add to it and try to, you know, show that you agree with it rather than feel deflated.
And just to add to what both Debu and Jalinda said is, don't wait for the question to be asked. You have a thought, express it, right? It is very soon that thought will be taken by the room, and it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge the thought, what is put on the table, and speak up for it. Don't feel
Great.
I would add only about the imposter syndrome, right? How you actually fight it and actually put it aside, complementing what Jalinda said as well, and Preeti. Sometimes we justify ourselves too much because we don't feel legitimate when we're talking. So recognizing your imposter syndrome, that this is something that is not you, it's your self-thoughts. Negative self-thoughts are very strong, so we need actually to learn to listen to them as well and say, hey, talk to them. You're here today, but I don't need you. Stay aside, and let me continue. And don't justify yourself. What Dibble said, actually, say your truth and shut up. That's it. You don't need to justify it behind.
I always have a bit of a thing of when people say imposter syndrome, because if you are a minority, not a minority in the global sense of ethnicities, but if you're a minority ethnicity in the West, you have always been told you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. So when you are in the room, you know you've worked twice as hard and you already know that you're getting half as much. This is not a boast, but I've never felt imposter syndrome because I've always thought, well, I've worked twice as hard. And if I'm getting half as much, then I definitely know that where I am, I have a right to be here. What I do face is the doubts, not internally, but the doubts that come from microaggressions, as Priti was saying, with people speaking over you, or you being cautious, not because you don't have the idea, but you know that, and also having these additional things on you. So I remember I was on a board in one organization where I was late to a board meeting by 2 minutes before the board started. And I remember so many people, black man time, is it? Black man time. And 5 of my colleagues came in after me. Nobody seemed to notice that I had actually been the earliest one out of the 5 in our team. So out of the 6 of us, I was the one that arrived first. But because it was 2 minutes behind the start time, and there were 3 people there already, they were talking about that. So there is this, you can get a sense of more, not imposter, but a more defensive view that I've got to speak on behalf of the whole of my race. How many people have said, oh, you're Indian, what do you think about X? And speaking truth to power is about being very clear about the microaggressions. Daniela spoke about imposter syndrome, which is you doing it to yourself, but microaggressions is others, whether it's intentional or unintentional, being done to you, and being able to recognize them for what they are. So it's back to that whole having an awareness of it, educating yourself and gaining the skills to address them. And to address it in a way that makes it better for you is very key. Yeah, sorry, Daniela, go on.
Exactly, and the microaggressions enhance this this feeling of imposter, right?
Yeah.
I saw someone in the chat wrote something as well. Priya, is it usually difficult to speak truth to strangers versus known people? In my case, I feel it's more difficult to speak to people who knows me because they are more biased related to our growing up. Then actually, for example, my brother, it'd be much more challenging to talk to him, which is because I speak the truth to my brother as well, but he's much more biased and he will challenge myself even more than a stranger. So, but yes, in my case is that. I don't know about Jilinda and Debo.
Yeah, I saw that comment too and I thought, I actually find it much easier to speak truth to power around a sea of faces in an auditorium of strangers rather than, I will mention them, my own mother or my own sister. My own sister, who only a couple of weeks ago, after I do quite a few videos, so I do a weekly video where I do a reflections topic, and I couldn't speak to her because I was about to record my Friday afternoon reflections video, and the word that came out of her mouth was, why would anyone want to actually hear what you've got to say? And I kind of went, whoa, where does that come from? But realized, of course, you know, she's known me as a child growing up. No, we're not close. And we were dealing with something with my aged mother. But, you know, at the time for her, she hadn't actually gone on the journey to see actually what I do, what I speak about, probably had never listened to any of the things I do. So when they don't know that, but they only know you from a different thing, you know, from growing up, you know, that's the kind of pushback that you get from people who perhaps should know better but don't. Whereas when you are able to articulate your journey and your learnings with a whole sea of strangers, that's gold. And that gives you the confidence to be able to do more of that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Jalinda. It's the known people that makes us difficult to speak versus the strangers. So it is definitely easier to speak towards the strangers and always have your facts with you, right? I go on to the next question where Nilanjana asked, even standing up on such occasion is treated with ridicule. They only assertive standards possible to the state that I did not like it, or even that labeled as a crybaby response. I mean, what I would say is just don't go with the problem. Go with the facts. Go with the number. When you bring in the facts, then it is no more called as a crybaby. When you brag, which is very much we speak in I Am Remarkable tools, you go with the facts. Facts play a very vital role. And there's tons of it that you have it with you, but you are not aware about it.
I would also touch their hearts in some way, but indirectly, without being the baby crying. I can give you an example. I joined a roundtable in Bordeaux where we talked about intersectionality, which is when you have a plural number of discriminations as one person. And it raised about, we talked about unconscious bias, privilege. We have many panelists, and one of the panelists, he was an artist and a transgender masculine. And since he was an artist and he wrote a poem, I asked him to read the poem, because this poem was actually strong words that will actually touch the leader's hearts who was in the room. The poem was about what I feel, why I feel as an outsider constantly. And it was a very calm tone of voice where he was just reading his poem out loud. And this is the only thing they retained from the whole meeting, like really immediately when we talked. They were like in pain for this person, and they understood what is it about having unconscious bias and not working on that. So how we can, yes, bring in data and information, be clear, really pragmatic, but also touch their heart in the same time. Do you want to add something, Jalinda or Debo?
Unless Linda wants to go, but the only thing that I would say is you need to tell the story. People don't have to, they don't have to be gaining a personal or indirect benefit from being an ally. In fact, the best allies are the ones who are not going to, they have nothing to gain by supporting or standing with you. A true ally is somebody who has educated themselves, who understands what the issues are, and they speak when you're not in the room. When I go into a room, it's no longer an all-white room. When I go into a room, it's no longer an all-male room. So your allies are the people who are in that room when you cannot be. They are the ones who, when they say derogatory things about you, or when there's an evaluation going forwards and they say, I don't think she's quite right for promotion yet. She needs a little bit more gravitas, or she needs a little bit more experience. Your ally is the one that says, define gravitas. What do you mean? More experience in what area? Because it is those sorts of amorphous, intangible statements that mean that that broken rung doesn't get fixed. You cannot fix the broken rung if it's out of your reach on your career ladder. And by the way, the idea is that it's not a career ladder, it's a jungle gym. But you cannot reach that. It is the people who are above that rung that can reach down and help to fix it, and also reach down and give you a helping hand. So an ally is very much a sponsor who's speaking, advocating and challenging their peers and the system on your behalf, with nothing to gain from it other than knowing it is the right thing to do, and that overall the organization or the industry or the team is stronger if the whole team gets a sense of belonging and can pull together.
Yeah, the only point I would add to that also is don't discount the power of collectivism. What I'm seeing with the story that I shared earlier in Australia is mind-blowing about how many women and different organisations that are working in different areas of gender equality or helping women get into boards, and all sorts of agencies that exist in Australia separately are collectively coming together now with a really strong voice saying this budget is not on. This budget is not going to give what women need to rise up from the pandemic, and we need women at the decision-making tables. Just very quickly, one of the things I don't think I actually said with that is that actual decision-making table for the economic response has no women at it. There are 6 men around that table and no women. So this is what happens when you get that kind of thing. You know, that kind of thing happening at decision level, then you don't have the consideration of what's needed. So the collectivism that's needed, one person going, they don't, you know, is not going to work. But a whole horde of women coming together from all sorts of areas, including Lean in Australia, which I'm heading up, all of that coming together will make a bigger difference. So if you feel like you're alone going into these things and feeling like you need an ally, yes, you do need an ally in your workplace, and that may be 2 or 3, but if you're looking at making a bigger difference and needing that sort of strength, reach out to a larger network of women who are thinking the same way, and not just women, men as well, that have joined this particular new thing that's happening in Australia. The great thing about it is seeing the men coming out of the woodwork too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when you mention that group of 6, you're not saying that they're misogynistic, but it's the same thing with organizations. When you haven't got a diversity around that board, you're not going to get a diversity of thought. And that's when decisions are going to be made, because there are blind spots. It's not the same thing as groupthink, but it is definitely, there are blind spots. And you there's something as simple as, for example, somebody gave the example of AirPods, the ones that have, you know, the ones that just fit in your ear and they hang down. And they said there were no women in that product design team, because if there were, or women that wore earrings, if there were, then they would have said, this isn't going to work. It's just tangling up in my earring. So there is similar thing with technology. You could probably talk about that with AI. If you have just men of a certain age coding in isolation, doing things like face recognition or voice recognition, or I saw something as simple as being able to translate, I'm a doctor, a man saying, I am a man, I am a doctor, and I'm a woman, I'm a nurse. When you turn the genders around and say, I'm a woman, I'm a doctor, in some languages, it doesn't translate, because the people who've done that translation have said, oh, well, women can't be doctors. And so they've not actually provided that translation. So you can translate it probably into the language, but translating it out of the language back into English, you found that the language, or the algorithms, changed the gender. So he is a doctor, she is a nurse, worked fine. She is a doctor, he is a nurse, that you could translate it into the language, but translating it out of the language, it just wasn't possible, because the algorithms, the people who coded it, said men can't be nurses, women can't be doctors. And that's and that means that for people who are using those systems, it's even more important that technology provides this wider sense, and people need to be able to speak truth and be part of that team of people who are delivering. Sorry, I'm not setting Priti up for a comment, but she is the resident geek. Oh, I see Daniela's put something in as well. So maybe Priti, and Daniela can
I
just
can
add on.
what you're saying, Debu. It's also, you're right. I think most of men who are code wouldn't have taken women into consideration. And this comes from unconscious bias, the beliefs that is ingrained. And that's why it is very important that we have unconscious bias coaching, and as well as workshops in the organizations to uncover and create this awareness, so that issues, things like that doesn't come up. If just taking the same example what Debu said, I'm in the medical field. If I say it, most of the people around me will take I'm a nurse. Nobody would say it I'm a doctor, right? And that's normal. If I say I'm in educational field, if a man says he's in educational field, right, they assume all the teachers are women, right? I assumed as a child that all my teachers were women because I had only women teachers. When I came into my graduation, I saw only one man teacher, and I was like, how can he be a teacher? And that was me, right? So it comes a lot from values and the beliefs that we are ingrained, and it takes time to unwire them. And unconscious bias is one of the greatest tools which will help to unwire this thing.
Yes, in fact, that's why I actually put the link from Implicit Bias created by Harvard, where we all can test our bias and understand where's the gap from our own beliefs related to our education and the community we are growing up, and how it will actually show you how your society perceives you, as well how you perceive yourself and others. And as soon you do the test, don't stay only with results, okay? Don't, okay, oh my God, I have this bias, and then you forget about it. No, take actions, take notes about your bias and work on them. You're gonna repeat it, and it's normal. Don't feel bad, don't feel guilty, but just try to do better. Apologize if you do something that bias actually hurts someone else, because that's what a bias is about, hurting other people. Bias is, okay, unconscious bias can be, it's used to help us taking decisions more in a more quick way, right? If I am in a situation of danger and I have, I don't know, a crocodile running against me, I need to run. So my unconscious bias is telling me, run, Daniela. But if I have unconscious bias related to people, and I say something or I take an action on behalf of someone unconsciously, I am mostly going to hurt this person unconsciously. So the idea of re-educating our bias is about avoiding hurting other people. You just take a steps back, lower your decision making, and try to do better next time.
Thank you for all those views. Thank you to all our attendees also for joining us today. I would really like to thank all four of you. Sharing personal experiences does draw in a more focused attention to what we all are dealing with, and how we all have highlighted actually that there are things that we also sit around thinking it's something that we all have to deal with. However, today's platform has made it clear we should never deal with something that we disagree with. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing this up. Thank you to all our attendees joining us today. It really means a lot to all of us here. I have shared a link of our LinkedIn group. Please feel free to join and you can continue this conversation there. Please give us a survey. There's a link for the survey. The panelists have also shared their links. Please visit and please check them out and let us know. How do you like it? And yes, this will be a wrap up. I really don't want to close the conversation, unfortunately, but short of time. Once again, thank you everybody for being here, for taking out the time and attending this. Thank you, panelists. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you. Keep it speaking
Thanks.
the
Have a
truth.
great day, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Have a great
Take
day.
care.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.